Here's a hot take for you. I quantize everything. Whether it's orchestral, rock, hip hop, EDM, it doesn't matter. If I'm dealing with MIDI, I am going to quantize it. We're going to talk about why and how you can maintain an organic performance using virtual instruments, as well as look at a light tension cue once again featuring Omnisphere sounds chosen at random, this time focusing on Matt Bowdler's The Unfinished libraries on my week 46 vlog check-in. What is happening, everybody? This is Dave Croft. Welcome to week 46 of my 52 cues, where I'm committing to writing at least one cue per week for the entire year and coming onto YouTube and talking about it, talking about my process, things that are going on in the industry, in my world, in my life, or whatever. If this is your first time, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad you found me, however you found me. And I also want to give a special word of thanks to my Patreon patrons whose support helps keep things going here. Lots more about my Patreon at the end of the video. If you want to skip over the vlog portion and skip directly to the cue breakdown, we're going to be looking at this cue called All the Pieces Fit, which is a light tension cue that was written using sounds chosen at random from Omnisphere, and specifically Omnisphere patches created by Matt Bowdler, who runs The Unfinished at theunfinished.co.uk. If you want to skip over the vlog portion, there are timestamps in the description below. But I wanted to talk about quantization and specifically how I quantize everything. If I am performing something using a virtual instrument, using MIDI, and I'm entering it in, I will always quantize it. In fact, I have my Logic session set to automatically quantize, usually to the 16th note value. It automatically quantizes as I enter in. I don't even really think about it. And here's why I do that. One of the biggest reasons is because I am an imperfect person, and there are times when my timing is fuzzy or whatever, and I find myself, if I'm trying to play a perfect line, like re-recording it until I get the timing exactly right. And that's super frustrating. There are also times where you can't control things going on in your computer. The latency that gets introduced could be, I don't know, you get an email in the background or a system message pops up in the middle of the perfect MIDI performance. Weird CPU spikes, strange lag with your keyboards, not to mention just fat finger moments and when you just butcher a performance, so you stop and you re-record it. And there are just so many variables that can interrupt a good MIDI performance that if we don't have to, then we shouldn't be holden, in my opinion. We shouldn't be holden to this idea that we have to play it perfectly like we would if we were recording something. If we were recording using acoustic instruments, then I mean, it is what it is. Of course, now you can go in and tweak, and I do that as well. So I will quantize everything that I record. Asterisks. But I don't leave things hard quantized. Well, let me back that up. Anything or any virtual instrument which is a virtual recreation of an acoustic instrument that would be played by a human being with their hands or their mouth or air or whatever, usually hard quantizing, like really locking it into the grid, could yield some mechanical performances. But even then, I hard quantize. I lock it in. But the secret is I relax the strength of my quantization so it doesn't stay perfectly on the grid. And I wanted to show you an instance of this. This is a piano part from the cue that we're working on. And you can see, if I zoom in really close to these notes here, that it's quantized hard to the grid, which sounds like this. And that's not terrible, right? It sounds great. It's a nice, real moody piano. And again, during the cue breakdown, I'll get into all of these sounds. But what I do, and the secret sauce, is the strength. And I will adjust, and I'm sure, every DAW has this option, but I will actually go in and adjust the strength of the MIDI performance. And if I zoom in nice and close here, you can actually see the notes starting to shift around. And I will ease the strength, usually between 75 and 85%. It really depends. And I will ease the strength so that it's not perfectly on the grid. Versus all right, so that was with quantization. That was hard quantized. This is essentially 70% quantized. Right? And you can see how I'm a little ahead of the beat here, a little behind the beat here, and that's perfectly okay. As a matter of fact, I say that's desirable. That's what we're going for. If we're dealing with MIDI instruments, we want it to sound natural. But I will hard quantize and ease the quantization to make sure that it still captures some of that live performance. So that's the first asterisk to that. Yes, it's hard quantized, but I ease the strength so that it maintains some of the organic quality, but it will overcome any of those myriad issues that could botch a MIDI performance. The other asterisk is, and when I don't super hard quantize, is when I am dealing with a patch or a sound that has a really long attack envelope, or with legato transitions, so in between two sounds where the horn samples are a really good example of this. And I'm going to load up a horn sample and kind of show you what I mean here. All right, so I have a really simple little horn line here, and I'm using the Cinebrass 2-horn ensemble, which is my favorite. It's like John Williams in a box. And so I've got it. Notice how the downbeat is on the beat, and it sounds pretty good, but the following notes sound behind the beat. All right. The reason they sound behind the beat is there is a legato transition in between these two sounds, because when a horn player, when they play a low note to a high note, they actually, the fingers are changing, the embouchure changes, and there's a little transitional piece of sound that happens in between the two notes, and that's what makes it sound so realistic. Right, that lip pressure, the blending of the two notes. So what we have to do in this instance, I start from a hard quantized arrangement. I hard quantize it, and then most of the time, a library will have a standard legato transition, meaning each legato transition is about the same amount. So I will anticipate it. So in this instance, they're about a 16th note off. And then quantize it, ease the quantization off a little bit. And yeah, the transition from this being a major second and these two being a minor second, the timing is a little bit different, but that's okay because it maintains that organic quality. But even still, I am anticipating each of these pretty much the standard amount. So I'll hard quantize them and then back up the MIDI notes so they go from sounding like this to this. Much more believable performance. But even still, it starts from a quantized state. The other instance where I have to do a little bit of trickery is with like short string sounds, pizzicato, staccato, spiccato especially. And it's the same thing. It's an attack envelope where it just takes time for a bow to get moving. And so I've got this little line here. And you can hear it sounds behind the beat. So I could go in here and anticipate each of these. Which is better. But you notice that first one didn't sound. Instead, what I tend to do is I will use a negative delay. And I've removed my face so you can see. So here we have in Logic, and I'm sure that there is a way to do this with a plugin. You can use a sample delay plugin if you wanted to do this. This is built right into the region editor in Logic. And I can choose ticks and delay the number of ticks. So I do a negative delay. Let's try minus 50 ticks. It's already better. Let's listen to it without it again. Let's listen to it with it. Let's split it. Let's make it about 45 ticks. Let's overshoot it. Let's make it 100 ticks. See, now it's on top of the beat. Let's go about 75. Yep, on top of the beat. I think like 40, 45 or so. Now see, that feels a little sluggish. So now I'm just guessing. Anyway, you get the idea. You get the idea of starting from a quantized state and then making your adjustments after you are quantized. And so that's what I have found to be the best practice. Is starting from a quantized state, ease up the quantization, and then each individual instrument address it so that you can make your adjustments, whether it's a negative delay or anticipating the attack. But I just don't trust myself. I don't trust the latency in my MIDI keyboard. I just don't trust it. And I know that this is kind of sacrilegious to some people who say you have to play in everything in order to maintain an organic sound. And I think that's true. But in production music especially, where everything is locked to a click, everything is predictable phrasing, very usable for editing. We're not talking about underscore on a film that might have, BPM in decimals, in decimal point. We're looking at very, very kind of, I don't want to say like boxed in, but we're playing by a very rigid, I guess, set of rules just to make our life easier. Our life easier as composers makes our editor's life easier. And so I have found that quantizing and then adjusting is the way to go. But what about you? What's your take on quantization? And do you quantize everything? Do you quantize nothing? I would absolutely love to hear from you. Leave your comments below. I do read all of those, and I make an effort to answer all of them as well. So with all that, let's take a listen to this week's cue for week 46. This is called All the Pieces Fit. And once again, it is a cue that was written during one of our music production live streams. And it features sounds chosen at random from Omnisphere. So we're going to take a listen to it, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. pieces fit, and why even write a cue using sounds at random? Well, part of it was the challenge of it, just limiting yourself to only certain sounds, and whatever you take, you use. And every sound that I chose at random was used. And some of them were more challenging, certainly more challenging than others. Starting off with this mood piano, which I lucked out because this is a really, really good sound. And I'm not going to like open up every single one of these, but this is called like I'm the Only One, and I forget which library it actually is from, but I selected only, as far as the author, The Unfinished. And The Unfinished is Matt Bowdler at theunfinished.co.uk. He is a composer and also a synth programmer, as in one of Hans Zimmer's synth programmers. And I think he did work on Dune. And so he releases his own sound sets. And full disclosure, I'm not sponsored by him or The Unfinished or anything. I was entered by a friend into a giveaway on his Facebook page, and I won. And he gave me one free library, and I was so blown away that I quite literally bought everything he had, as far as the Omnisphere patches. And he does Zebra patches. He does Zebra HZ. He just got into Serum. He also, I think, does Silent. Maybe not, but like FM8. And so he does all of these other patchwork as well. And so this obviously isn't all of them, but I just clicked on random, which I love that Omnisphere has that option. And I got this mood piano, kind of this dream piano, along with this guitar sound, this Atmo pad, which was challenging because the original pad it was layered sounds, and one of the other sounds was a big major chord. So I had to go in and do some tweaking. This pulse here, it's really synthy kind of vibe to it. These percussion clacks. I did render a few things to make some reverses. So the reverse piano, so a single note, and then a guitar note. And then when I got this sound, I was a little worried. Right? It's a wobble bass, kind of like you would hear for like dubstep or bro step or whatever. But just keep it nice and subdued. In my melody, I love call and response type melodies, so I have my call in my mood piano, and then a response in this electric piano with this bell layered on top of it. Kind of synthy. Yeah, belly. Putting them together, and they have kind of a Yamaha DX7 vibe to them, like a Doogie Howser kind of vibe to it. I don't know. Then I really lucked out by getting this low impact sound, and I promise you, these were all chosen. I clicked the random button 3 times, and then just next, 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 and just loaded them up. So getting that impact. Now, I did record a couple of things. I recorded some cymbal effects, which are some cymbal scrapes featuring, this cymbal right here. It is a K dark thin crash, a Zildjian, and that's a drum set cymbal, and I was a little worried that it was going to be just a little too shimmery and bright, and I had to do some EQing on it, and this was actually like pitched down 9 semitones because it was just all those upper overtones were really, really aggressive. But I recorded that, and I recorded some suspended cymbal swells, same cymbal, just to help with some transitional stuff. and then some actual cymbal taps. And I realize I'm not showing you my screen, but some cymbal taps on using a brush here. And even those, if I were to open up Flex Time, you can see I quantized them, but I eased the strength down to about 50%. And I have a right and a left. You got to be really careful if you're quantizing audio, but it's stereo audio, like a left channel and a right channel, like a doubling. You don't want to hard quantize those, because that kind of negates the fact that you're double tracking. Because what you're looking for when you're double tracking are the inconsistencies between the right and the left. That's what gives it its kind of stereo vibe to it. So we're building. Actually, before I'm just going to go through the rest of these sounds here. I have this dark, bendy, moody pad. I have this sine kick that was a little difficult. Just a little difficult to manage. So I ended up bouncing it into audio, and then I stitched a pattern together. To be honest, the timing of the waveform that this was based off of, the timing felt a little suspect, and it felt like it was dragging. So I just rendered it to audio, and then also rendered some clacks to audio as backbeats. And those are all the sounds. As far as my arrangement goes, starting with my opening melody, these guitar notes are on the upbeats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and some reverse energy getting into bringing in the pulse, so it's really establishing the downbeats. Impact, Atmo pad, and my call and response into a chord change here. Another chord change. And now double up the melody, go back to tonic, include the cymbal tap so we can feel the energy building, going into my breakdown, where I'm going to strip out the melody and the guitar gets a little busier. Introduce the sine kick. Then I have an edit point right in here on the and of 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just like I talked about in my arrangement video, if I'm going to punch an odd beat like that, and especially right before an edit point, this little vacuum moment, I'm going to put reverse energy into it. And then into the harmonic change. Little 3/4 bar gives it the illusion of a grand pause. 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3. Cymbal swell. And I've got the dark pad layered in with. So A, B, A plus B. Wash, rinse, repeat with my cues here. And then finally, layer the melody. And coming up into my button. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And there's my button. And that is the final chord, the final held out chord. And I think it turned out really, really well. One of the real challenges specifically of this one is all of those dark sounds made for a challenge mixing and a challenge EQing, making sure that everything all fit together. I basically had to kill the low end on many sounds and do some side chaining so that like the sine kick and the low triangle pulse wasn't really right on top of each other, so did a little bit of side chaining there. But I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed the challenge of writing cues and introducing an element of randomness to it. And it helps having these libraries from the unfinished, because each one, I tell you what, and again, I'm not sponsored. You're not going to find like an affiliate link down below or anything like that. I love what the guy does, and I think it's great. And I need to have him on the channel. I think I've talked about that before, but I would really like to have him on the channel. Like I said, this is a cue that was written during one of my recent music production live streams, which is a benefit to my Patreon patrons. To be a patron is just $1 a month, and you get access to the live streams, and I do at least one a week. Sometimes I do 2 a week, just depending on the schedule and depending on what I have going on. The patron information is in the description below. But if you don't want to do any of that, that's completely okay. I just love that you're here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your support. And that's going to do it for me. I hope that you had a fantastic week 46, and I look forward to seeing you in week 47. But that's going to do it for me. Until next time, peace.